And welcome once again. I am the database guy, and please like and subscribe as always. Again, this is all free to you. I want you to be the best you can be in Microsoft Access with SQL Server or just by itself if you want. We are at presentation for video number 3. We're still in tables. It's quite long. So what I like to do is break it up and that's where we are in our bullet point right there, tables. We're going to learn about the indeterminate, or what I call the many-to-many. That's the last one. We didn't do a one-to-one. And I want to go back for a moment just into the previous lesson because I want to emphasize something on a query. Remember query books here, and I'm going to just go into design view. There's something interesting about this that I want to make really want to really bring to your attention. Now, I'm going to also go into the database tools here, and I'm going to break the relationship. Select it. You have to select it. Let's do it again, just so you see it. I'm quite fast. I'm sorry if I am. Select it. Actually, select it and right-click and delete it. That's what you want to do. So again, just to show you, right-click and let's delete that. Sure you want to delete that? Yes, we do. Now I'm going to hit the little save button up here. I'm going to come back to my query here. I'm going to close my query out for a moment and then open it back up and go to design view. So now you see that we don't kind of have that one-to-many present. Even if it's not established in the relationship, and you really should, and I'm going to explain in a moment why, if I open up query books in my view, I'm still going to get the same result. So what's going on? Okay, here's the answer. I am making connection. I am actually making a join, if you will. And if I double click on that join, I'm going to see what I've seen before. I'm going to do it on the table is the pub table is on the left. The right one is the books. And then the two fields is joining. Okay. And so I don't have to have it a relationship here. However, if I didn't have this join here, and we're going to delete that. So we're going to, again, right click and delete it. Now, if I come into my view, I'm going to see that what we call that cross. When you're crossing in mathematics, you're taking one value and you're, in this case, concatenating or adding the data. So I'm taking the first line of my books um, table and putting in the first publisher. And then I'm taking the first line of my books table and putting in the second publisher, and so on and so forth. So if I create the relationship here, and I go to my view, everything is fine. Now let's go back here for a moment and create my relationship here. I'll have to do everything I was doing here. Oh, okay. I can't do it. So I'm going to close my query and not save anything. No, I don't want to save anything. Bring it back here. Can't do it while the query is open. It doesn't like it. You're going to learn that a lot with Access. When things are open, it won't like it. So we'll create it. We'll save it. Now we'll open our query again, and of course, that's going to be fine. Let's go to Design View. Now into Design View, as you can see here, since I didn't save anything prior, any change prior, I got back the one-to-many relationship established, which I should have. So the takeaway for you as a developer is this. You establish a relationship to create a restriction between the two tables. That's what you do. In the queries, you create the relationship to filter the data. All right, so I don't need to have this one-to-many here. As we saw before, I could delete that in my query, and reestablish it without any kind of one-to-many being seen, and I would still get the data I want, which means that you don't always have to have a relationship to be able to filter data. All right, you don't want to have too many relationships. That'll make things very complicated. So in the end of it all, your takeaway is this. Your relationships that you establish in your tables create the restrictions for data entry. Your relationships or connections in your queries allow you to extract the data out in the way you want it. Now, I didn't have to do anything. I could just bring the two tables in and it was already established, as you saw. So the benefit to having the relationship established in the back end, or in the, I'm sorry, not back end, but in the relationships table, is that it will automatically be realized when I go to my query, unless I delete it. Okay. Wanted to bring that to your attention so that it was completely clear on relationships, which is good. Let's see, anything else? All right, let's go back to our database. And we're going to talk about now and let's go here to design view. And we don't have the author here. And the author, as you know, is an attribute of a book in some way. It is, but our challenge here is that not every book has just one author. Back in the day, that might have been the case, but as we are today in the new world, and even not long ago, within the last 50 years, I would say I've seen books with multiple authors. So how do you accomplish that? What do you do? All right. The idea would be if I created a foreign key for author, then I could only have one author per book, and that's not what I want. All right. But let's create the authors table. We're going to close that down, and we're going to go to create. We're going to go to table design, field AID for the author ID, and we're going to do an auto number. The reason for this is we want to assign a number to the author, and it doesn't have to be something we need to do or that the user has to do, but we need to have it assigned so we can reference it. And of course, the author, right? And that'll be a short text. All right. So in this case here, we're going to highlight the author ID and we're going to make it a primary key up here. We're not going to touch anything because now we can't have duplicates in the primary key. And as you see here, all you have is the index. The required on this particular one, let's see, is not even there on an auto number. Auto number, by definition, is required. It will generate itself right away and it can't be blank. And so that's why those fields aren't there, but obviously you have no duplicates. When you're in the authors, of course, you can have that as you see. All right. We're going to save this one, go yes, and we're going to go field. I'm sorry, not field, table. Boy, authors. Call it authors. Good. And there we have it. We're going to go to our relationships. And let's bring that in. Actually, I double click to open it. Can't do that from here. You got to drag it and bring it in. Right now, we're going to save this as part of our schema. We're not going to use it right now at the moment. But we need to have another table, another way of connecting the authors to the books. And this one's going to be quite interesting when you see it because you're going to be using this more than you think. I'm going to close my relationships down that I've saved it. We're going to go to create, table design. Whoops, whoa, it went to the bottom. I'm sorry. Foreign key, ISBN. All right, and that is going to be a text. Okay, it's got to be a text because our primary key for our books table is a text, a short text. It must be the same field type. If you were to try a number and you would try to connect it, and actually, you know what? I think I'm going to do it for you. Let's make it a number, and then let's make this one here foreign key AID, and make that a number. We're going to save this. Yeah, we'll save it. We're going to call this table books authors. And OK. We don't want a primary key here. There's no need for a primary key in this table. Why? Because each one of those foreign keys is actually a primary key within itself. It's connected to it. So we don't need a primary key. So let's go and open that book's authors and show you what that looks like. Wow. OK. Now, when you go to my database tools again, into my relationships, and I'm going to bring that book's authors in there. And now I'm going to show you what happens when things go awry. So I'm going to take my ISB in here and connect it with my foreign key and attempt to do this. It's going to show one-to-many. Must be on the same number of fields of the same data types. And here you have it. So we're going to come in here, select this, highlight it. You can just click into a table, it'll highlight it, right click and go to table design. And we're going to take this one here and make it a text. And we'll save with the save button and close. Now we should be successful. Let's try it. And voila. We have now connected it because it's now not text to numbers, it's text to text. So what I'm going to do here for the sake of cleanliness, I'm going to just, you can always move these tables so that you can see the connections. And then we have, and actually let me move this over a little bit more. You can always make everything nice and neat. We're going to take this one here. We're going to take this, the author's ID connected to the field here, a foreign key for author ID, and we're off. All right, so very good. All right, so you can see here now. I'm going to save it. Don't lose it. This book here, this table here, the table books authors. You'll look here. You'll see a many to many. It's not an indeterminate relationship itself, but you click on this here. So it's a one, oh, I'm not hitting it. It's a one-to-many here. So basically, your many-to-many is a table that joins two one-to-manys. And if you remember from our coursework, that's what it is. Sometimes you'll create a table and it'll say it's an indeterminate relationship. If you ever see that, you're probably not going to want to have that in your schema, because what it's saying is I don't know what relationship it is. But the many to many, and I know I've called it indeterminate here. I'm calling it that because um, we know that one book will have many books authors, and one author could be in many books authors entry. But the data itself in there, really, if you were to look at it by itself, you would say it's indeterminate. I don't know what it really means, but its connection is meaningful. All right, so good. So we're going to leave that open. We're going to go to authors, and let's add some authors, some well-known authors. Let's open this up. Yes, hope I'm spelling them right. Um, see, and let's try one more. Let's try. Yes, Dickens. Okay, so you notice that I have something dropping down from here, but I have no book associated with it. I'm going to save this. Yes, I do. Let's open it again, make sure the authors didn't go anywhere. It didn't. All right, we're going to go to authors' books. And you can see there's 0 there for the author's books, right? If we go to table books, you can see now that I have this sort of connection to the authors, right? Um, and I could leave that as publishers if I want, but let me show you how to the design view. In properties, right click anywhere. Again, we'll do it again for you. Right click anywhere, go to properties, and instead of auto, we could do this as publisher, and it will put in our child and our master fields, and we'll save it. We're going to leave that for that, just for there. So now I can see my publishers, right? And you'll see a connection to publishers here. It's going to go cyclically because what it's doing here is, remember in publishers, if you recall, we could show every single book. So what we'll do is we'll go back to books again in design view, and let's see, properties, and we're going to, the table that we're going to use is going to be table books authors. And then you see the ISBN is there, right? Right. Okay. Which is probably what we had before. We're going to go into view. And sure enough, we don't have any authors yet for the book, but they would appear. Now, you may ask, well, wait a second. How do I enter in authors and books? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to books again here, right? And we're going to go to add design view. Actually, we can't do it here. I should take that back. You see the table below here is not the books table. This foreign key AID is the book's authors table. So what we're going to do in design view here is we are going to put a caption here of ISBN and a caption here of author or author, right? And what we're going to do too is we're going to take the text box. Remember we did this for publishers. We're going to make a combo. And we're going to select the authors table to fill that combo. We are going to have 2 columns, which is the author ID and the author name. And we want the author ID to be 0. We don't want to see it. 0 and 1 inch. 0 inches and 1 inch for that. And then we're going to save that. So now, let's see here in books. Now I can select an author, right? And let's see here. So under the Raven, I could select Edgar Allan Poe, but I can also select a second author. Let's say Christie. The Pit and the Pendulum, Edgar Allan Poe. Let's add a record here. 1, 2, 3, 6 ABC. We'll put those back in. Remember, we deleted them. If you remember that. Steppenwolf. 1910, we'll call it. And we'll call this 1 publisher. Oh, we don't have a 1. Yes, so we have to go back to table publisher. Remember, we lost our table publisher. I'm going to put pub1 here as the 4th entry. Remember what I said, when you delete something in an auto, you're not going to get it back unless you do a compact and repair, but we're going to put it as, it'll be assign it number 4, no problem. And so we'll go to books again, and 1, 2, 3, 6 ABC. This will be Steppenwolf. All right, yes, it will. 1910. This will be 4. Actually, we would have a drop down there to select the publisher, but I'm going to put it in by number, and we'll try Hermann Hesse on this one, which is the actual author of that book. Okay, so let's see. We don't have an author for the Scarlet Letter. Let's put Melville in. I don't think it's correct. Obviously, he's not the author of that. We should add probably one more. 1, 2, 3, 7. ABC. Moby Dick. That's Melville. 4. And then, of course, the author is Melville. So we're just putting these in just to put them in. Now, let's go to book authors. As you see book authors here, because it's a drop down in here, all right, we're seeing the ISBN that's matched up against the author's name. Now that, I'm going to go to design view for a moment. I am going to come to this field here and bring it back to a text box. And then go to view. Yeah, save it. Thank you. And now you're going to see the author goes away and the numerical value for the author is there. So a question that may come up, well, wait a minute, you said that duplication of data was a no-no. Yeah, it is. But the ISBN is a unique number. And so as we see here, we do get a duplication, but it isn't all that much, and it gives us a unique number to point to. So since it's unique in one table, even though it's duplicated in a second table, all is not lost, right? All is not lost. Um, so let's go to authors here, and now we're seeing the books that these authors have that they will show. You might say, well, this is, and Charles Dickens doesn't have a book. Oh, we didn't add one for Dickens. Let's add one for Dickens. Let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 0. Let's try Nickleby. Hope I got it right. Whatever. Don't know. And we're going to put that one into. All right. So now we come down. The author here would be our last author, which would be 5, which would be Dickens. So we're going to put 5 in there. If we tried putting in one that didn't exist, again, we'd get flagged. But all of this is going to happen in your graphic user interface. You're going to see how that happens. So now we go to table authors, and Dickens has. Now you may say, well, wait a minute, this is not really something I want to see. Doesn't really work well. So we go back to books, right? One of the things we can do, because the authors here, we're pointing to this one here. We could have it in the relationship, it's pointing here to the author ID, and that's why it's showing it. Now, why won't it show the author? Well, it's showing that because it's showing it in the book authors table. There's no author in there. So what we could do is, books authors table, we can go into design view, and what we can do is we can go to properties and we can take this auto off and make it authors. And what it will do is it'll match up the IDs. So we can save that. Yes, we want that. So let's go back to here. and now you see Herman Melville, and now you see the ISBN, and it comes back to Mel. It's going to be cyclical. We don't want that because that's one of the issues you have with um, doing this. So I'm going to put it back to you can have a cyclical thing where it keeps going and going and going. We're going to just do an auto on this one. We don't need to have that. Oh, now we're back to this now, and under books authors, you'll just see this. So what happens? How do you extract the data out? Well, you remember in query books here, right? We had this information. So we can take this and we can expand upon it, right? We can get books authors, all right? And we're going to bring the pub over here. We're going to bring the books over here and here. And we also have table authors as well. So what we can do here is we don't even really need this here is sort of, as I said, a go-between. All we need to do is pull out that, double click it, it goes into the field here, and it's going to pull that data out for us. Now, my question would be, could we delete, or your question would be, could you delete the table books author? No, we need the reference table. You need it to be there. You need to be able to look at that table, pick the information out of it. So let's look at it in view and see what happens. So here we have it. We have all of our books, all of our authors, all of our publishers, and so on, right? And you see here that what's interesting is that I am seeing a duplication for the Raven. I'm seeing two authors for the Raven. So I would have to create, and you can do this when you do this for your graphic user interface or for your report, you can have two different queries, all right? Or you can have basically what is a report and a sub-report, and they're linked. And so you would pick out the book you want, and you would list the information in the book from the main table, and then you would list the authors in the sub-report. Um, this is exactly what you would expect to see, right? Because you have two of them for Edgar Allan Poe, which is fine, right? And while we're here, I just want to show you something while we're here to get you ahead. But if I want on the title, for example, in the criteria, so if I wanted the Raven, and it has to be correct, it has to be spelled correctly. So what I'm going to do is leave it this way for a moment, go to view, and you see it works. It does work, even though here it's spelled with a capital A. But you'll see that here, okay? And here's another one for you. Let's go to author and write this in. The like word, the asterisk, and let's see, I think it'll work this way. Poe. Let's see what happens. If it even works. Up, contains invalid syntax. Let's try just like Poe. Let's just try like Poe. I think the asterisk is a wild card. We don't need it. But remember, we get nothing. So in that case, let's try with a capital P. See what happens. Nothing as well. Let's put a wild card in front of Poe. That probably is what the issue is. The asterisk is our wild card. That should be fine. Now, looking at like Poe by itself means I just want to see Poe. I'm not seeing that. Let's try it now, and there we have it. So you see, and we're learning a little bit about queries as well, just to get ahead. So a wildcard and the name will give us the name of who we want to see. So it's interesting in looking at these queries and how they work. With year, I could specify a range between 2 years, and you'll see this in queries. We're not there yet. And if I wanted just publisher one, I would see everything from publisher one. Like wildcard pub would do nothing. It would show you the same thing. Anyway, all right. So what you've learned here on the queries here is that I can compartmentalize everything and bring it in. I probably wouldn't do this in the real world. What I would do would be I would extract what I could from the books table. I would have the author ID. So what I would do would be this. This is how I would do it. Yeah, would have the author ID there. Publisher, I could leave since it's a one. It's really a one publisher for a book, but a publisher can publish many books. There's no issue with that. I go to view. So what I'm doing here is this. I'm picking out the author ID, and so I'm putting this in my main form or my main report, and I have access to this field AID. And then when I go to my sub-report, or actually to be more correct, I should say that's not what I want to see. I actually want to see, and I don't need this then. I'm going to take this out of here. I just need this, the foreign key. So, in other words, I have the foreign key, and look what it says, author. Remember, I changed that. If you remember, I changed that caption. So, I have the foreign key there, and I would save that as a query. I would use that as the record source for my report or my form. However, I'm looking at this data. I have access to the foreign key, and then when I bring in the sub-report, I make the join between the foreign key and the primary key of the authors table, and I'll be able to populate all the authors for my books as I go. That's how you would really do that. So you would have that. We're going to say yes, and then we're going to create another query while we're here. And not queries, we're going to go to tables, table authors, and we're going to have 1 and 2. And we're going to see it there. And so what I'm saying is my foreign key I'm going to use to match up against here. So I'm going to save this one here and have this as query authors. All right, so the idea is, I'm going to close the relationships down. Yeah, save it. All right, here's one, here's the other one. So I'm going to match up, as you see, 3 replicates itself, 1 replicates itself. I'm going to match those up to what I see here. So Herman Melville's in 2 of them, and so is Edgar Allan Poe. And you're going to see how that works in the form or in the report. It's going to be pretty unique. But what it does is, so both of these would feed, one would feed, the books one would feed the main form, and the authors would feed the subform, or the main report and the sub-report. You need to do that because there's another part of this too. Here, let's just see something. I can update this, all right? This is an updatable query. Here, I can update this, right? Yes, I can. So I'm going to take out the S for Melville's. I want to show you something that is, and I'm going to do this here. I'm going to copy the books table. You can always query, I'm sorry, and you can always paste it. And I'm going to go query new books. I'm not going to keep this one. It's only for the sake of this explanation. All right. So we're going to open that one up, and we're going to go into our design view, and I'm going to add in my authors. All right. And what I'm going to do here is take out my foreign key and bring in the authors as I had before. I want to show you what happens. All right, we're going to save it. We're going to go to view. Let's see if we can put an S on here. Can I? Actually, I can. There are some queries which are not updatable. We're going to get to those, and you'll see them in queries, but in some cases, they're so complex you cannot update them. Actually, let's see if we can put in our group by. That may be one of the things that I believe restricts it. So let's see. There it is. Record set is not updatable. When group by is present, you can't update it because what it's doing is it's grouping everything together into one line. So to try to update that won't work. In this case here, we don't need it. Well, that's one of the things about group by that's sort of nasty. Here I can, because I don't have the group by anymore. Oh, that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so I don't want to get too far. Again, I wanted to add some queries into this just to so you can see it. So we did this whole indeterminate many to many. Now let's look at the tables, local versus linked. So in any database, the tables you see here, the image is a local table. I'm going to link a table. External data, new data source from a database, from an Access database. Let me see if I can find one on my computer here. No, I don't want to use that one. That's the client's. Let's see. Go to documents. Maybe there's one in here. Oh, okay, here we go. So let us try that one. So link, not import, but link. If we do import, we're going to bring them into local tables here. All right, import queries, forms, reports, and everything into the current database. We don't want that. We want a link. But when you do this, you're going to write Visual Basic Code, and you're going to write a table that lists all the tables you want to link. Usually you do that. And it makes it easier. I'm showing you this for the sake of how it actually is. Now, it'll bring up my tables here, books and pubs. I'll select both of them and click OK. Now what you notice here is it added two more tables with arrows. In Access, this is a linked table. You would not have, well, you could have this in a front end, but you would not have it in a back end. In a back end, you would only have the two tables, books 1 and pub 1. And you notice that it named them appropriately so it didn't confuse them here and here. It gave them new names. You can't have the same name of a table twice. You can't do it. So if I open this up, I can actually see what was in those tables in that database. All right. This is how you actually connect. So let's say, for example, this was my front end and the tables that are linked are in my back end. That's what you do. But you always have to refresh. And you see here where it says refresh linked, or you can go to link table manager and you can select this here and you can refresh the links. Whenever you open up a database, you're going to write code to do just that. And you'll see that way down the line, but you will see it. All right. When we get into VBA coding. I'm going to delete these and get rid of them. I can do that. Yeah, I want to get rid of that link. Once it's gone, it's gone. I don't have it anymore. I want to show you another database. This is my client's database. You see these here, like the world. These are SQL Server linked databases, meaning that the tables are in SQL Server. In this case, they are. I've had my own in SQL Express, but this is a linked table. And you see here, this is a graphic user. It's a front end. So I have some local tables here. I have temp tables. There's a temp here and a temp here and a temp here. I have my data sources here. This is all the linking of I'm doing with my tables, right? I run through this table to link everything in the beginning when I connect everything. Going back to my presentation, so your local should only the tables for your schema should only be in your back end. You can have some local tables in your front end. We'll talk about that in a moment under table types. And your link tables obviously can be in your front end, and you can have some local ones in your front end. So under table types, primary, which is the back end, and they're linked to the front end. So in other words, in my example here, I could, if this were my back end, I would create a front end and link these tables. And I can do that. And we'll show you that in the next video, not right now. Secondary table, well, primary table in itself would be the books table, right? That's our big table. That's the big one. And the secondary table could be something like the pubs table, and it could also be the book authors table because it connects to the authors table. The idea of the temp table we talked about, these are working tables. You'll hear more about them when we come up in closer to them in the presentation of this coursework. The auxiliary table, that's something really, in this case, like the authors table. It's used, it's accessed, it can be updated, it can be changed, and you're going to see how that happens. And the system tables is the final one I want to show you before I close out here. You should never go near these, but you go into here, which is your navigational bar. You go to the options here, and you show systems and hidden. They're here. You don't ever want to touch these. However, this being the case, when you do custom ribbons, one of them is going to be in that table, so you know. All right, and that's really what we have for today. And I don't want to go too far again. When we come back in video 4 for this, we'll go into it more. So anyway, like and subscribe. Wherever you are, have a great day, evening, morning, whatever it might be, and I will see you soon.